Candace says, "Hi, Austin and Robert. I'm looking for some investing advice. I'm in my 30s, have my CPA, and work at a CPA firm. I also help run a family business with my two brothers. I recently sold the business where we have equal ownership in the company. I've already received $400,000, and I'll receive another $400,000 to $600,000 at the beginning of 2025, all after tax. The only debt I have is on my house. I was lucky enough to purchase my house right before COVID, and since then, the housing market has really taken off. I bought my house for $216,000, and I currently have an outstanding mortgage on it at $149,000 with an interest rate of 4.75%. I've been told by a realtor that if I listed my house, it would go for about $305,000, maybe $315,000. For investing, I currently have $25,000 in treasuries, $464,000 in a high-yield cash account on public.com, and roughly $25,000 split evenly between some of the nuclear stocks that you guys mentioned in your last episode. I currently max out my contributions to a Roth IRA and HSA. I would like some advice on what you think I should do with the cash I've already received and will receive over the next couple months. My future goal is to grow my passive income where I don't have to work at all, but right now I'm focused on buying a new house with some acreage. Houses in my area with at least an acre of land seem to be going for $450,000 to $650,000 depending on the location. 1, what are your thoughts on how I should invest my money? And 2, what do you guys think about me taking this money and going out and buying my forever home with some acreage? Robert, I'll let you kick this one off.
Yeah, I love this. You're in a great situation. You just need to get a little more aggressive. In my opinion, right now, you have way too much money sitting in a high yield savings account. Some of that money needs to be mixed into these, blue chip funds that we talk about all the time, like VOO, QQQ, VGT, because those are going to perform well over time. And we want to make sure we're not leaving so much money on the table by having this amount in a high yield savings account. So that is one thing that I would do. Also, at your age in your 30s, I don't see any cryptocurrency. I think with this much money, you should have a small portion of it in Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe some XRP and Chainlink. Get a small portfolio there as well to give you some exposure to that market. And then also, I love that you're thinking about this forever home, but I would just make sure you don't overdo it right now because your current living situation is really incredible. And if the market is going up on that property, maybe consider, because you have that property at such a low interest rate, turning that into a long-term rental. Keep getting the tax write-offs, keep getting the capital appreciation on that property, and then still go buy the other property. So those would be my takeaways. I just want to see you have more money diversified into the things we talk about all the time, rather than just these little tiny amounts, maybe in nuclear, which I think is a great sector. But we also want to make sure that you have these kind of boring investments that perform really well each and every year, like the S&P 500.
I liked all that, Robert. That's really good. Kind of just thinking out loud here, right? So if your current goal is to buy a house with some acreage, then sell your house that you live in right now at this 4.75% interest rate. Sure, is it a low interest rate? Yeah, it's kind of low. It's not high. It's not too low. It's like right in the middle, right? Let's call it 5%. Sell the house, which means that you would take home about $150,000, maybe close to $125,000 after everything's said and done there with your realtor. You already have $400,000 sitting in a high yield savings account. So now we have $525,000, and then you're going to get another, let's call it $500,000 in the next couple months, all after taxes. So we're talking about, once you sell your house and look at your high yield savings accounts, just over $1 million. If it were me, I would do the following. I would park probably 500,000 of that into the S&P 500, NASDAQ, VTI, all these things that will allow it to grow, specifically double over the next 7 years, because the S&P 500 doubles on average every 7 years. So my 500,000 in 7 years will now be worth about $1 million. I'm going to take the other $500,000 and find my dream home, which means that maybe not spending all 500,000 on buying the house. I'm not saying buy a house in cash, but what I am saying is putting down enough of a down payment where that monthly mortgage isn't a crazy burden on you, but also having enough set aside where when you want to do those, that 80,000 renovation or that 100,000 renovation, and you want to completely redo the kitchen because it was built in the 90s, but it's sitting on 7 acres and it's all this perfect stuff for you. So have enough money set aside where you can also buy your dream house and renovate it with the other $500,000. And then whatever you have left, park that again back into the S&P 500, things like that we've talked talked about over here in the bridge account. Now we fast forward 7, 8, 9 years. You're now in your early 40s, I'd imagine, call it 42, 43. You have, let's call it $1 million, $1.2 million that is in this bridge account. You can immediately flip all of that into monthly income paying ETFs like SPYI, QQQI, BTCI perhaps, and these other NEOS funds that we talk about, allowing you to make 10 to 15,000 a month in passive income. So check, your long-term goal of passive income and completely retiring is done. And now 7 years down the road, you still have a mortgage on the house, which is fine, but the mortgage is now still low enough that it's not that impactful on a month-to-month basis for you. And number two, I'd imagine in 7 years, Robert, interest rates will have dropped on 30-year fixed mortgages, allowing you to refinance this for out of, let's call it the 7.5 where it's at right now, maybe closer to 3.5, 4.5, which will take you back to where you were pre-COVID there. So that's my quick playbook. You definitely have the money to go find that forever home, renovate it, turn it into something special, as well as park this money in the S&P 500, let it grow aggressively over the next 7, 8, 9 years, add to it over time, because I'm sure you're going to keep making money. And then when you're ready to truly, set it and forget it, really stop working, because you said that was a long-term goal of yours, you can now move that into these NEOS funds. And then maybe even if you want to pay off the mortgage, because that's been a dream of yours or something, you could do that too. But the only mistake I want to make sure you don't make is forgetting about the Roth IRA. You should still be maxing that out every single year at $7,000 a year. If not, it's going to grow over time too. So keep maxing that out until retirement. That's what I would do if I was in your situation.
I've got one more thing, and this is more of a mindset concept. And that is, you mentioned you feel like you're behind. I promise you, the hundreds of calls I do a month and a year, with people that are working towards financial freedom, at your age, you are not behind. You are doing wonderfully well. You are here asking these questions. You are listening to our podcast, so you're taking your money and your personal finances seriously. A lot of people don't even pay attention to their finances until they're 45 or 55 years old. Then they really have some catching up to do. I promise you, you're not behind. I love that you're thinking about it that way because you're being serious about it, but you have a long, prosperous future ahead of yourself, and we're really glad you're here. And we're excited for you to join the Rich Habits Network in December as well. I think you'll get a ton of value from it, and we look forward to having you.
100%. And I think at the end of the day, for anyone else listening that feels behind in their investing journey, statistically, you probably aren't. First off, right? There's a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm 42 and I only have 100,000, or oh, I'm 36 and I only have 12,000 invested. Like, I'm pretty sure the median, 401k balance at 65 years old is like 180 grand. But I just want people to know, like, you still have so much time. And then even, let's call it, once you are 65, you can continue to invest. You're going to be around for another 20 years. My dad's 79 right now and he's still kicking and having a great time. We all have those grandparents that are in their 70s and 80s that are just hanging out and still doing it, right? So don't feel like 65 years old is the shot clock. And then going back to another question we had, right? You don't have to 65th birthday, sit on a beach for the rest of my life, time to play golf every day or watch sports for the rest of my life. No, like, go have your encore career. Maybe go take a couple years off and enjoy retirement as you should. But there's a lot of people listening, including myself, that feel like we're never going to retire because we love what we do. We love going out and working and providing value in the marketplace and, being that resourceful older person for someone much younger, right? There's a lot of just good that comes from that. I think Robert's a great example, right? The guy's, edging on 60 years old and he's having a blast right now with the podcast. So the encore career, I think, is a great idea for a lot of people as well.
I always tell people you don't need as much as you think. You just need to make sure you understand what you need. And that's one of the critical thinking moments in your life, especially for those of you that are younger. Getting ahead of it is the greatest thing you can do for your later self, because then you're not going to be panicked at 55 or 65 years old, because you have to always hope that you can take care of yourself, because you don't always know if others are going to be there for you. So this is a great episode and a great question, because I love to talk about this to help people think ahead in tens of years and decades rather than in months as an investment strategy, because the best thing you can do is set yourself up for later.